In this video, I'm gonna be talking about the book with the plot twist that broke the internet. Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. We have a lot to unpack, starting with the summary, the world, the characters, the magic system. I will also share my impressions for the whole book and for the infamous plot twist, the crazy hype and expectations that this book had. And I'll also share some of the questions that I have after reading it, as well as predictions for the second book. I'm gonna need to talk about this book quite openly with spoilers, but do not worry if you haven't read it. I will warn you whenever I'm gonna drop some spoiler, so it will be a safe space for you. A little bit of context first. Where did this book come from? Because suddenly, last fall, it seemed that everyone and their grandmother were reading this book. And when something goes semi-viral or quite viral on TikTok, you see everyone reading the same book. This book was everything I could see for a long time during fall last year, fall of 2024. And there were so many videos of people reacting to the plot twist at the end of the book. So of course, when a book is marketed to have an insane plot twist, I'm gonna want to read it. I love plot twists. I love to read about things that I do not expect coming, because I love making predictions, but I love being surprised even more. So I added this book to my TBR last year. I eventually got it on my Kindle, and then this year I finally found a moment to read it. But I also waited because I love reading books closer to the sequel being published, because otherwise I feel forced to reread them because I like to have everything fresh in my memory until, I just wanted to read it and I did. So I will watch my own video as a recap whenever I need to read the following book. And before I continue, I want to say also that this book was originally independently published, but after the boom it had, it was picked up by a publisher and it's gonna be traditionally published this year. So congratulations to the author. Now, what is this book about? To be honest, I don't know how to explain this book to you. I went in completely blind. I had no idea what this book was about other than it was a romantasy and that it had an insane plot twist. But other than that, I had no idea of anything. I didn't know whether there would be fae, witches, vampires, what kind of magic system or world would be set in. I knew nothing. I didn't know what the plot was. And honestly, when I read the blurb, because I do like to go in kind of blind, but at the same time, every time I start a book, I want to know a little bit about what to expect, so I read the blurb. But in this case, the blurb did not give away anything, in my opinion, which is good and bad, depending on how you look at it, because you didn't know what to expect. So that's positive in a way, you are gonna be surprised. But at the same time, I picked it up and I was so confused. Like, okay, there's this market and something happens and then some stranger comes. No idea what I'm reading. But honestly, it's good to go completely blind into it and then let yourself be surprised in the process. And I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'm just going to give a very brief summary similar to the blurb, which is basically what I just said. This is a world in which there is a lot of hostility between the different territories and kingdoms, and there is a big history of war and animosity between them. And as the book starts, you hear of two of these territories or kingdoms, which are the Alaha and the Kenta. And basically, the Alaha are people who were banished to live on the sea, yes, far from mainland, and have to survive in some sort of community where there's some trees growing from the water. It was quite difficult for me to imagine it, which I thought it was quite inventive. At some point, I don't know why, because it has nothing to do with it, but I was imagining Avatar. I know it has nothing to do with it, but I just imagine like weird hanging trees, but instead of floating, they were like in the water or something. I don't know. It took me a while It took my brain a moment to process the descriptions that I was reading, which I kind of like, because I like when there's a challenge in the way that you imagine the world. So the Alaha people live somewhat in the sea. And because of this, they have very limited resources. And as part of a peace treaty that they have with the Kenta people, they are allowed to go once a year to a market into Kenta territory. And they are not really in land, they are in some kind of bridge market, or that's how I understood it, so that they can replenish their livestock and food and resources for the rest of the year, and also purchase other types of goods. And this is where the story begins, when our female lead is going together with her fellow companions, friends from Alaha, into this annual market in Kenta territory. And something happens in this market, many things happen in this market, in fact. But basically, whatever those things are, causes to threaten the peace treaty that they have with the Kenta people. And when Bryn returns home, being one of the culprits of this interference with the treaty and this trouble that they've caused in the market, they have to face with the consequences, which means that the Kenta people are gonna retaliate in some way. They might send some people, a stranger that Bryn might meet in this market, and the story starts developing from there. You will see that when you start reading this book, even this summary doesn't mean a thing, because it's just basically how the story begins, but you have to get into the world to understand it. And I don't want to say anything more, because I don't want you to discover the book by yourself the same way I did. So what I just said, it's quite close to what the blurb says. What kind of tropes does this book have? Romance-wise, it's described as an enemies to lovers, although I do not think it is like a true enemies to lovers. I don't want to say a lot more, but even though, yes, the parties involved in the romance are from different kingdoms, from rival kingdoms, it is a very mellow enemies to lovers, because I do not feel there's hate among them. And it is somewhat of a slow burn, but not a lot. For me, the most important tropes of this book are more related to the world and the plot rather than the romance. And I would say, if there's a word that describes this book, is secrets. Secrets coming from everywhere, all sorts of directions. Left, right, top, bottom, front, center, back, everywhere. Secrets all the time, everywhere. And the other things that for me move this book forward are the political intrigue, the unique magic system, and also, as I said, the world is kind of different to what I have pictured in the past. So even though the romance was okay in this book, for me, the most interesting things were related to those secrets, that political intrigue, this war between the kingdoms, this interesting and unique world that Rachel has built, and the magic system, which I found very interesting, and I haven't read such a system before. It's kind of elemental, but it's very interesting how magic is drawn and channeled. And you discover it slowly as the book progresses. So that's a part that I really liked. And I'll talk a bit more about the romance in a moment. Okay, let's talk about my impressions. I was fully invested in this book for the first 150 pages. I have heard that to some people it took them a while to get into it. It might be because of what I just mentioned, of this world being kind of difficult to imagine and the magic system being explained slowly throughout the book. So it's difficult at times to get a good grasp on the whole story when you are missing bits of information and when you are struggling to connect the concepts in your brain and to imagine the world. But for me, the first 150 pages were I love them. I was literally, as I said, I was picturing some weird avatar type of place. In the end, I kind of managed to, conjure up something that more or less resembled Rachel's descriptions. I thought that this concept of the Alaha people being a community that is in the sea was very interesting. I was really enjoying myself while reading everything that was happening in the market with the Kenta people, this kind of sense of eeriness, like something might happen, let's be careful. And then the return back home to Alaha, how it was described, observing the different dynamics of the people there, the hierarchy, how things were working, and then when this stranger came, etc. So for me, for those first 150 pages or so, approx, I can't remember how long this stretched, was super interesting. I was fully invested into that story. And after that, as I said, we kept getting as readers secrets all the time, non-stop. And I feel that at some point, perhaps the romance took over. It was more focused on the characters, and the pacing, because of this, slowed down a bit. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it just slowed down a bit, at least for me. From the hype that I was coming from the beginning, I was so excited about this world and the characters that I had been presented in Alaha. So there was a switch. And at some point, I was not sure where the story was going. I was not sure what the main character wanted to accomplish. So it was slightly confusing. And this is all I'm gonna say for those of you who haven't read this book. So I'm gonna start speaking with spoilers from this point in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so what happened for me? So after Bryn or Jodie went into the sea with Acker, I was not entirely sure what she wanted to accomplish. And for me, that sea trip, it became a bit long. I don't know if I'm just the only one, but it dragged along a little bit. And I wasn't certain what her motives were. Like, she wanted to escape the people that she knew, the Alaha people. She had been betrayed by them. She had found secrets about herself, her family, her background, her own powers, and had been lied to by pretty much everyone in Alaha, or at least those who she believed close to her. So she wanted to escape together with Acker, get answers to her questions, and to reunite with her mother, the Queen of Maile. I don't know how you pronounce this name. I'll say Male, I don't know. So after the boat trip and during the boat trip, this became essentially the main plot of the story, to find out more about her background and her mother and what had happened to her. But I was still not super sure where we were heading. Like, would this be a book about the journey to get the answers or what? I was not certain. And the thing is that when you make such an interesting world, at least this is what happened to me with this book, okay? I like it, just spoiler alert, I like the book, but something happened to me, which is I was so invested with the Alaha people. I just wanted to know more. It was so interesting and so fascinating. And please do not come at me. I love Acker. I liked his character, and he and Bryn can have a happy life together if they want to, but I was so much more invested in both Kai and Messer. This is what happens when an author makes very interesting, very relatable, very charismatic side characters, that they outshined the main ones. And this happened to me also with Kali Hart Quicksilver. Again, don't come at me. I love Kingfisher as well, but I just like Carrion Swift more. So when you took me away from Kai, took me away from Messer and the Alaha people, even though there were a lot of interesting questions and I wanted to find out the same answers as Bryn or Jodie, I just wanted to stay longer with the Alaha people and know more about them and the situation and Kai's dad, Ren, and I just wanted to find out more about that. And when I said at the beginning of the video that the romance was okay, it's because of this reason. because I was just in love with Kai and Messer. And Kai for me was a character that is super interesting. It's this person that has this kind of duty, this power. He's this heir, but he was still like very protective and very good friend of Bryn, but he also had sentiments, but he's also a bit of an introvert in terms of expressing his feelings. This, I like it in a character, especially a love interest. And when he betrays her in the beginning of the book by hiding all this information, by manipulating her, it became even more interesting to me. Like, it made this pure good character, this character that was presented to be almost without fault, this perfect warrior, this perfect, example. It made him a bit more villainous, and I am here for it. So I was Team Kai. I'm sorry. And again, it doesn't mean that I want him and Bryn together. I just want more of Kai. And I want him to be some sort of love interest to someone. And same with Messer. Messer was a very charismatic character that I also really enjoyed. So then, after the boat journey, and after we find out about Kai's supposed betrayal, it was just very obvious to me that Acker and Bryn, or Jodie, would have this fated mate type of thing. Like, I could see it in the way that Acker spoke about her mate, and it was a beautiful discovery. I really enjoyed how their relationship developed through the story, and how this kind of mind connection that they had also was shown, and how it revealed things from the plot. But still, I always had Kai in my small and wounded heart. There was a place for him here, which was not being filled. Am I the only one? Because I haven't seen people talking about Kai. Anyway, continuing with Acker and Jodie, I enjoyed their relationship, but there was a point in which they were already in Kenta territory when they meet Acker's army, that I started sensing weird things. And throughout the story, Acker kept revealing secrets to Bryn, but kind of like out of the blue, as though he was hiding information from her, lying by omission. And I don't know if this was all related to the blood oath that King Ren or Captain Ren made him take, but it still kind of felt fishy, like I couldn't trust Acker fully. You were getting comfortable with him, the relationship was evolving, and then you found out something that he had been hiding. Again, and then another secret. I just felt constantly bad for Jodie because I felt she was being lied to by everyone. by Kai, by Messer when he was hiding his shape-shifting and following her around, and apparently he was this kind of weird bird that was living also on her roof. She was being lied by Acker as well constantly. I just felt like I was her in that book, and I was trying to understand how I would react. And I just felt so bad for this character. I felt bad for myself. While I'm in this world and everyone's lying to me, who can you trust? Even your mate, the person you are falling in love with, is just lying all the time. And again, it might be because of the blood oath, it might be because of something else, it might be lies by omission, but there were lies nonetheless. And then we get to that camp with Acker's army. And in that camp, I saw something from Acker I didn't like some kind of attitude. Like suddenly we find out yet another secret that he is a prince. And we also find out that he is engaged to another princess, another secret. And I just felt like a character switch, like a behavioral switch. He was this very devoted, completely in love with Jodie until that point in the book. And from there, I'm not saying he was not devoted or in love, but I feel like then duty took over and he started to portray this more authoritative behavior. And then the way that he was reacting in front of the men and telling Jodie, you cannot speak to me like that. Or when heading to meet with the king, I recall Jodie commenting something like, instead of him staying behind with me, he went ahead as though to please his father. He walked ahead of me to the days, leaving me kind of behind and alone. And those kind of subtle changes in attitude, they left me with a bittersweet feeling regarding Acker. Now let's talk about the plot twist. I have two opinions about it. First, I did like it. I liked it because it was unexpected and because I think that from now on, the story becomes a lot more interesting. The stakes are higher. Now there is a real chance for Acker and Bryn to become enemies to lovers. Now. Not until this point, because I felt, as I said, that Acker had this devotion from the beginning and they were not real enemies, and it was not as though she hated him. So I feel this makes the story a lot more interesting, because now they are mated or bonded. He is in love, they have confessed their love, and now everything goes to hell. So I feel that from this point forward, this is gonna make the story more interesting. This is going to make the conflict between the Alaja and the Kenta and this rebellion, plus the Miley and the Sprout, or I don't remember the names, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it all wrong. But yeah, it's gonna make the conflict even more convoluted. So on one hand, I loved the plot twist. On the other hand, I'm slightly annoyed and confused. Why? Because for the whole book, I thought, poor Jody, she's being lied to left and right by everyone. Everyone that she loves, everyone that she meets. There's no one she can trust. Hence, there's no one I can trust, because I am in first person reading this book. I am Jody. But all along, the only person that was being lied to was me. But I was in first person there. So how did I miss my own lie? You know what I mean? Like, I feel that this plot twist, even though it was interesting, it was not fully incorporated throughout the story. I feel like there should have been a little bit of foreshadowing. There should have been more clues that hinted that something was going on, especially when narrating this as first person, because you are in her head, you are in Jodie's head, and you are listening to her inner monologue, and pretty much in the whole story, there's not a hint, there's nothing that would betray these own thoughts that she has. How did this escape to us? And I was thinking, could there have been any hint? And the only one that I found, which I reacted to while I was reading this book, was in page 441, after they have bonded, there was this sentence at the end of the chapter when everything was fine, they were all in love, very happy, etc. And then she ends the chapter by saying, I kiss him, knowing nothing lasts forever. And then I was like, why are you saying that nothing lasts forever? It seems as though everything is going according to plan. It seems as though Acker is completely in love with you. I don't think he wants to marry this other princess. He said so himself. I think you have a potential future together if you want to. At least Acker does. So why are you saying nothing lasts forever? What are you plotting? So this is what I think of the plot twist. I liked it, but at the same time, I feel lied to by the main character. And this also makes me very confused, because now I have no idea what she knew and what she faked, and I don't know. This raises so many questions to me, and I have written them down because there were a lot of them, so I'm gonna read them for you. So, did Bryn remember Acker? It seemed to imply with Kai that yes, she knew who she was or where she came from, or that she had these powers, but did she actually remember Acker and Hallis? Like, clearly remember them? Or had she had some form of amnesia like it seemed throughout the story? Was she lying to us about that? How much did she know about Acker and their bond prior to the reveal? And regarding the bond with Acker, did she feel it before? Did she remember it? Did she feel it when he was in the brig? Or was it truly revealed to her by Acker? Every time that Acker mentioned his mate, was she aware that it was her the whole time? Does Bryn or Jody actually like Kai? Because it seemed as though she was never interested in Kai and that he was a betrayer to her. How could he do this? But in the end, it seemed like no, actually he is indeed this kind of loyal man that we met in the beginning prior to the betrayal. They have been in cahoots the whole time. So were they actually in love? Do they have actual feelings for each other? Or was she truthful about the fact that she is not that interested in him that way and that she actually loves Acker? Or does she like both? Is this gonna turn into a love triangle, perhaps? All these questions we had about her past and her escape. Does she actually remember everything that happened? Or was she being truthful when she said that she doesn't have a recollection? Does she remember how she left her home? Was she kidnapped? Or did she actually escape? And did she lose her memories? Or she kept recollection of those the whole time? She knew who she was, where she came from, and who had kidnapped her, and eventually she flipped and became friends with Kai or whatever, and then decided to lead this rebellion. What happened with her mother? Because there was also this instance in the book in which she's reaching for the dagger or something like that, and then her mother appears and talks to her, but for like a brief second. Was the relationship damaged? Was the mother looking for her? Did she escape because there was some sort of trouble with the mother? I don't know. So what really happened in this world? Who are the bad people? I have no idea anymore. What are everyone's motives? Right now, it's only clear that Bryn or Jody, she wants to lead this rebellion. But why exactly? Is it because she wants to escape the fate of the Alaha people and the unfairness of this treaty, and they want to build something new, something better, and with her friends, with Messer, with Kai, etc.? Or is there another motive related also to her own crown and Kenta's crown? And what's the purpose? Was Messer on it too, and she was actually playing dumb when she faked that she didn't know that Messer was a shapeshifter and that it was this kind of bird? Because she has lied to us in first person already. So could she have known about Messer? Because as the book began, Kai and Messer and Bryn, when they go to the market, they say something along the lines of, regardless of what happens, we are always together. Let's stick always together. So could it be that she was faking, not knowing that Messer was coming along with her? Could this have been all part of the plan as well? What about Acker's mom? What is she doing in Alaha? Why was she kind of living next to Bryn or Jody? Did she know that she was Jody? Was she somehow related to her disappearance? Did she know who Bryn really was? Was she protecting Jody? Did Bryn know who she was? Because it appeared as though she had discovered it in Kenta, but perhaps she was lying to us about that. Also, did Acker's mom recognize Acker when she saw Bryn helping him escape? And let's not forget Bo or Beo or B, I don't know how to pronounce this, Acker's sister. How and when did she turn against her own brother? When did that happen? I don't see a lot of opportunities for Bryn or Jody, even off the page. I don't see where they could have potentially interacted that much so that Bryn or Jody would have convinced her to betray her own brother. Even if it's for a greater good, even if it's to be part of this rebellion, like how did that happen? I guess we'll get more answers to that. And regarding Acker's sister and my previous comment about the side characters, I am also fully invested in this relationship that she has with Hallis. That is an enemies to lovers, I feel. So I do hope that Rachel also continues developing these side characters, because I thought that she made a great job at creating interesting side characters that we want to know more about, and I hope that they get their own stories. I do not know how this book or this series is gonna progress, if we're gonna continue being in Bryn's head, although we really weren't, or whether we're gonna switch point of views, if the author is gonna introduce more point of views. I would like to read also now on book 2. I want to know what he thinks of everything that happened, of this betrayal. I want to see his reactions. Does he now develop this hate towards her own bonded that he swore to love? Is love stronger than hate and betrayal? How is this going to progress? And especially because I feel that in book number 2, since this whole situation escalated so much towards the end and Bryn or Jodie had to betray Acker and they had to take separate ways, I kind of feel that they will start the book, or they will spend a portion of the book separate. So it would be good to read both perspectives, because they might not be, or maybe they are, but they might not be together on the page and interacting for a moment. Also, the first book is called Metal Slinger, which is Acker's power, and it was narrated by Bryn. Now the second book is called Light Wielder, and this relates to Bryn's powers, or Jodie's powers. So could this be narrated entirely by Acker to make like the opposite of the first book? I wouldn't be opposed to that. That could also be very interesting. Could this evolve also into a multi-point of view? Because as I said, I think that the perspectives of the side characters and their stories are also very interesting, and I would love to hear more from them, and not just as side characters. I would love to hear from them, even if it's in third-person narration, but I would love to be in the situations when things develop. So we'll have to wait for book 2 to answer some of these questions. We'll have to wait, I don't know how long yet. I will read this book and I will for sure be reviewing it here. I would love to hear in the comment section, if you've read this book, what are your impressions? Did you like the plot twist? What did you think about? What other questions did this plot twist raise? Who were your favorite characters? What was your favorite part of this book? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in my next video.